Good morning. Let us start the discussion of today's newspaper, that is 26th April. The first thing is a very good article, the diversity deficit in our political parties. The research by Hindu states that Indian political parties at the highest level of the decision making, that is Congress Working Committee, BJP Parliamentary Board, etc., they are highly centralized, and different sections, different classes of Indian society are not properly represented in these particular highest decision making bodies. It means that this decision making process may become more biased towards their composition. What is the major composition? All parties are, by age, they are 60 plus years people dominate over there. By gender, most of them are male. By social composition, most of them belongs to upper class Hindu families. So in this context, can we expect a decision making which is close to the Dalits and minorities and also women from these bodies is a question. So in this context, to reflect the social situation on the ground, the political parties in India also has to transform themselves. So now in this case, the BSP, Bahujana Samajwadi Party, which is very active in UP, it is an exception. It is because of the history of the political party itself. Mr. Kanshiram, who founded this party, actually, it has started as BAMCEF, that is, a Backward and Minority Communities Employees Federation. Especially of post-constitutional era, the scheduled castes were given the reservations in the administration. Because of these reservations in administration, a strong and articulated middle class developed among them. And this particular middle class formed into this organization under Kanshiram leadership. Slowly, it took the political expression as the Bahujan Samajwadi Party. So now you can see the difference between how OBCs took over the political power and how the scheduled caste entered into the political mainstream. After the Mandal report, the OBCs have got a special identity. Especially after the Green Revolution, the OBCs, especially Adavas, etc. in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, they became very strong. From then onwards, after politically becoming strong, they demanded for the reservation the administrative positions. If you see the scheduled caste, the things are different, quite entirely opposite to it. First, they got occupied the administrative positions, or they took over the administrative positions through affirmative action of the state, and then they consolidated that and used that to express themselves politically. So that is how the BSP has grew. That's why it has a greater composition of the Dalits at the highest level of the party. Now, if you want an inclusive society, an inclusive polity is very much essential. And this lack of diversity in political parties, lack of decentralization in our polity is a major hurdle to this. Now let's go to the second article. It is related to the Mohammad Morsi and the recent court decision to provide for 20 years of imprisonment for Mohammad Morsi. Let us see a small background to this. The Freedom and Justice Party, it was actually affiliated to the Muslim Brotherhood, and it has won the parliamentary and presidential elections held in 2011 and 2012 in Egypt, after the post-Mubarak era. Now, the Morsi, he was the elected president. What he tried to do was, he wanted to escape the judicial oversight or come out of the judicial oversight. And in this process, what he did is, he kept judiciary powers out of the scrutiny for his actions. Now, if you can see this particular cartoon, it clearly says that Mr. Morsi taking over the judicial powers. And he also wanted to restructure the entire Egypt on Islamic lines. Against this, there were many agitations, and there were claims on the Mr. Morsi that he has used his force and through backdoor encouraged the riots to muffle the voices of the liberals. So the present charges under which he was arrested, it is in relation to those riots. And after that, the military leader, Mr. Al-Sisi, who is the chairman of the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, he took over the power in the Egypt now. And initially when the Morsi was dethroned, he was like a conscience keeper of the Egypt. But later it can be seen that as like any military rule, he is also going out of the democratic line, and also he is not considerate about the views of the people. So from this, what we can say is, again the Egypt after the Arab Spring, it came close to square one with world god of Mubarak at the helm of the affairs now. So this is what is the story. Now, the exact situation in the Egypt, it is reflected by this cartoon. What it says is this. The one way we want Morsi, one way we don't want Morsi, that goes on. And this is what is the Suez Canal, the major source of income to the Egypt. The next one is the Ghani's visit. There are a series of articles on Ghani's visit. Last week, on 24th, we studied about Suhasini Haidar's article. Now let us see this. Now, if you can carefully observe, Afghanistan first signed its strategic partnership agreement with India in 2011, and this was widely supported across the board in Afghanistan. The world guard in Afghanistan, that is President Karzai, he enjoyed very good relations with India. If carefully observed throughout the history of Afghanistan, the trajectory of violence was closely linked with the Pakistan. The ISI is very active even during the Taliban and even now. Due to American pressures, sometimes this violence has come down and it got resurfaced again and again. At the flag end of the Karzai's career, he wanted to engage with Taliban to create a sustained peace in Afghanistan. But he was a big failure because nothing of this can happen in Afghanistan without Pakistan's support. In this case, the new President Ghani, he brought the new theme of reconciliation with Taliban, and also he found new closeness with Pakistan. So why he did that? Why he is doing that? So that's what is analyzed by this particular article. Now you can see Dr. Ghani as a pragmatist who sees the future of the Afghanistan in successful engagement with Taliban. And he knows that it can happen only with the cooperation of Pakistan. Added to that, the National Unity Government in Afghanistan, where Ghani is president, and Mr. Abdullah is CEO. It's a kind of a compromise agreement between the two major parties. Obviously, it will have some internal squabbles, and the lifetime of this party may be minimal. A lifetime of this government may be minimal. And also, from 2016 onwards, the continuation of this existing 10,000 forces of America in Afghanistan is very doubtful. In this context, if Chinese can invest in Afghanistan as part of their One Belt, One Road initiative, it can increase the pressure on ISI to enable a meaningful peace process with the Taliban. And also it increases the security scenario in the region, because recently, if you can see, the Pakistan military head, he said that he is going to give a huge security for this pipeline and corridor which is being built through Pakistan. Now added to that, the killing of Afghan soldiers recently at Badakhshan, the suicide attack in Jalalabad raised the doubts about the entry of Islamic State elements into Afghanistan. So in this context, so the peace and stability in Afghanistan is very much important for Mr. Ghani. Now, if you take the engagement of India, yes, India already had a very much of goodwill diplomacy in Afghanistan, and people, they have a close heart to India. But however, if we can complete this Jabahar port, it can create an alternate access point to the Afghanistan and also increase its trade relations with Central Asia. And the second thing is, Afghanistan signed of Pakistan trade transit agreement. Now, even if Pakistan opens up this agreement for India, it may provide for the new market opportunities for the Afghanistan goods. And next is, if you see India and Afghanistan, they have a common vision towards the future of Afghanistan. Our policy clearly states that we want a stable, united, independent, democratic Afghanistan where all its ethnic groups shall live and prosper together. That is what is the common vision. Let's recollect it again. Our vision is towards creating a stable, united, independent, democratic Afghanistan where all its ethnic groups shall live and prosper together. So these are the things we need to understand. And added to that, if you can recollect the Suhasini Haidar's article, what again another point she added is this: India shall not oppose this particular belt and one belt one road initiative of China, because it increases the prosperity of the region as a whole, and India also can gain out of this increased trade relations or increased infrastructure in the region. And if you collect, Mr. Ghani has the 5 circles foreign policy. What are these 5 circles of the foreign policy? The first circle, it consists of the neighbors. Next are the Asian countries, and after that comes the Islamic world. And then it comes the major powers or donor nations, and outer circle consists of the international institutions. This is what is the 5 circle policy of Mr. Ghani. Now obviously India comes into the neighboring nation of the Afghanistan. So it means both of them are going to have very good relations in the future. So added to that, we shall not take Ghani not asking for the lethal weaponry from India as an offense, because India do not have traditional capacities in supplying the lethal weaponry. Even as for our strategic partnership, India never promised the supply of lethal weaponry to the Afghanistan. Next is, with regard to the speaker's attitude, recently MP Bhagwat of our party, he made a remark that the farmer suicides and agrarian crisis require more than Mann Ki Baat. And she said that every issue cannot be politicized, PM cannot be dragged into each and every issue. So what it says is, the speaker's position has to be impartial. Whatever the party she may belong to, but she sits on to that particular chair, she has to be unbiased and impartial to the all members. And she has to conduct the house in a fair manner, giving chance for everyone to express their views and thoughts. So that is what is the regular thing. And next is, with regard to Juvenile Justice Act, already we have discussed enough on this in the previous videos. So between 16 to 18 years of age, a person, if he has committed a heinous crime, he may be regarded as an adult based on how he has committed a crime, that is as an adult or as a child. Now what Kanimozi says is this: the prefrontal brain, which is helpful in planning judgment of the people, it only matures at the 25 years of age. So it means the biological explanation do not support this particular act. And the second thing is, if you take about most of them who are committing the crime, they have the incomes less than 50,000 rupees, and more than 50% of them do not have primary school education. It means that poverty and lack of proper education, they are the major reasons for the people committing this crime. It means we have to create an enabling environment where people will move away from these particular crimes. So that's what is the thing we need to do. Again, let us recollect, any reform or else the juvenile justice shall be based on rehabilitation and reform, but not on retribution. This is what is the carry home point which she stresses on. And next is, the Guardian newspaper, it has brought in a new initiative on the climate change. So it talks about fossil fuel disinvestment campaign. It means that the people, it encourages or motivates the people and companies to shift to the alternate energies and to disinvest from the fossil fuels, or companies which are supplying the fossil fuels, extracting them, such as Shell, etc. And next is, I can just quote it as an example as a media initiative or media taking up a positive advocacy role in the society. Next is the MAT. With regard to the MAT, an economic controversy which is arising, which is evolving as of now, that is minimum alternate tax. We can discuss it later.